computer.
It's me.
Is that
yeah,
you?
They're very loud.
In the country?
My garden.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just while you're having another, I'm going to show you the things we're going to do lying down. It's not going to be unfamiliar, but I just want you to be clear. And I'm just thinking the best way to, I think you can probably see. So we're going to do some rocking. First with your arms in a triangle. Then when you make your arms into a big circle like a beach ball. And thirdly, when you give yourself a bit of a hug, okay? So I'm going to talk you through those three things. Hopefully, was that clear? Could you see what I was doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great. So why don't you lie down now? We're going to do these movements on our backs. So these movements on our backs are all about freeing up the rib cage, which is, you know, again, really helpful at the moment. So settle down onto your backs with your knees bent and your feet standing on the floor. And just take a moment to arrive. So you might want to have a couple of big sighing breaths. And then to start with, feeling the weight of your head on the floor. And from your head being heavy, then just let your head roll a little bit to the right and to the left. And notice how the back of your neck feels. At this point, notice how your shoulders feel. And then settle your head down in the center, in a place that's comfortable. So the first thing I'd like you to do is let your knees start to tilt to the right and to the left and see how this feels. And again, remember, this can be a small movement. It's not necessarily going as far as you can. It's using the movement to help you sense into how your body's feeling right now. And so I was doing this yesterday and thinking, oh, I feel quite creaky on one side of my pelvis. And so I kept it quite small and just kept coming back to noticing that. And obviously, nothing's a magic cure, but I can say by the end of doing this little sequence, it felt a lot easier. Something had released. So just a couple more times to the right and to the left. And then you can pause in the center, and it's up to you. We're going to move the arms now. If you want to lengthen your legs out, you could do, or you could keep your knees bent. But you want to just try to leave your pelvis steady where it is, not let the pelvis move. And you're going to bring your arms into that first position. So bringing the arms up over your chest, touching the palms in prayer pose. Your elbows are straight and your hands are going to stay stuck together. And so you've made this triangle with your arms. You're going to start to rock this triangle now to the right and to the left, and let your head come along with your arms. So you're rocking side to side across your upper back. Good. And just seeing how that feels. And if you are feeling tight in your upper back, if something's feeling uncomfortable, just do less. If you feel that you're going quite a long way, check that your hands are not sliding, check that your elbows are not bending. Try and find a comfortable rhythmic movement. And well done, everyone. I can pretty much see everyone's knees are not moving. Sally, I can't see your knees. I will just trust that they're... I think you've got your legs long, haven't you? No, I can see your knees now. Yeah. Yeah, legs long is good. That's good. Okay, and then just let your arms come to rest by your sides for a couple of breaths. And let the breath come in, let the arms rest, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Once more, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And then come back to, if your legs are long, bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor again. Come back to tilting your knees to the right and to the left a few times and see how this feels. So remember, what we're looking for in a way is less how far we can go, but how easy and smooth the movement can be. That would be a good sign of progression. Okay, settle down again now. So again, you could have the knees bent, you could lengthen your legs out, up to you, whatever's more comfortable. So we're going to leave the pelvis settled now. We're going to bring the arms up into that big sort of O shape. So you imagine you're holding a beach ball on your chest. That's it. You're interlinking your fingers, your hands over your chest. You want to keep this circular shape as you do the same movement of rocking across your upper back. So rock your weight towards the back of your right shoulder, towards the back of your left shoulder, letting your head come along, but trying to keep your circle circular. And notice how this feels. So sometimes I find if I'm very stiff in my shoulders, that this feels more comfortable. This circular shape feels, yeah, that I can rock a little bit more easily and gently across my upper back. So see how it feels. And so when we think about the lungs and our breathing, it's really important to realize, I think there's more lung capacity in the back of our body than in the front of our body. And all these little massaging movements help to free up the rib cage and the muscles in the back. Whenever your arms start to get tired, bring the arms down to rest by your sides. So let the arms come down, let the arms be heavy, let a breath come in, let a breath leave you. And in your own time, again, revisit. So if your legs are long, bend your knees. Revisit tilting the knees to the right and to the left. How does that feel? And again, this sense of ease we're looking for is, can we do this movement with any greater sense of ease and comfort? Very nice. To the right and to the left. Lovely. And then again, settle in the center, knees bent, feet standing on the floor, or legs long if you prefer, so whichever you prefer. And this time you're going to give yourself a hug. So you're crossing your arms over your chest. Try to have one arm completely on top, because that is more comfortable. If you're not sure, have a look at me. And then start to rock again, side to side across your upper back. So letting your head roll in the same direction. So your elbows tilt a little bit towards the right, not the knees, Marie. Yeah, see, yeah, so sometimes we do this one and we do move the knees. Today, I'd like you to try just to move the upper back, the upper body, sorry, from the waist up. So it might be that you don't go so far. This could be a little movement. If you do feel that you're going a little ways and you're rolling onto your fingers, you could reach out away from your sides with your fingers. So again, look at me if you're not sure. So you could be, yeah, as you roll towards the right, you could reach your left fingers out on the floor away from your body. So that's a possibility, yeah? Sort of trail the fingers away from your body. And just do this a few more times. Side to side. So sometimes with these ones, it's just really good to repeat them. It might be a small movement to just keep repeating it. And then maybe something starts to undo a little bit more. So if you've had enough uncrossing your arms, if you want to do a few more, you can do. And when you uncross your arms, bring your arms to rest heavily on the floor. And then one last time, that's it. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. A couple of cycles of breath. And then one last time, let the knees now tilt to the right and to the left and see how this feels. That's nice, good. Very nice. And so again, how does this feel now? If there were feelings of tightness earlier, have any of those eased? Good. carry on letting the knees tilt once, twice more to each side. And then just settle on your backs, and we're going to do just a little bit of breathing here. You're going to bring your hands to your low ribs, and I'd like you to have your thumbs going round towards the back of your ribs and your fingers coming round towards the front. So you've got your hands right down on these low ribs, and just settle here for a few cycles of breath. So as you receive your in-breath, feeling your ribs widen into your hands. And as you exhale, feeling the ribs narrowing. Well, that's probably what you feel. Just see if you can feel those low ribs responding to your breathing. I imagine that's the sort of what I feel, a sense of, with the inhalation, widening around my middle. With the out breath, narrowing. What's really helpful about this feeling is that we know when those ribs are responding to our breathing, that the breath is traveling all the way down to the bottom of our lungs. So it's why it's a very helpful place to focus on. So maybe 2 more cycles of breath here, feeling that expansion with the in-breath and the narrowing with the exhalation. And then when you're ready, you're going to fold your knees into your chest, hold around your knees, and just do a little bit of rocking from side to side now across the whole of the back of your body. Let your head rock in the same direction as your knees. Very nice. I can see lots of nice feet. Lots of nice bird song. What could be better? The other thing you can do now, so you can do a bit more rocking. The other thing that might be nice would be to take your legs up to the ceiling and give them a shake out. Lovely. And what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to come onto hands and knees. We're going to do some movements on hands and knees, some dog and some cat and some other things. And then we're going to do some other things. And then we're going to come and sit, and we're going to do this sequence of mudras, the Sharira mudras I was talking about. But we're going to get moving first. So when you're ready, coming onto hands and knees. So when we're thinking about movements of the spine, what we've been doing on our backs is lots of rotation, lots of twisting movements. So when I came onto my hands and knees, what I wanted to do was lots of the tail wagging ones. So come onto your hands and knees, and just a sense of, what would feel nice. We're going to do some tail wagging. We're also going to do some cat movements. So you can mix these up a little bit. Maybe see what feels good for you, for your body. And all of these movements are also about moving the rib cage. So they involve the rib cage and the spine. You could be doing this one, little fishes. Yeah, so the one where we swing our feet from side to side, the lower legs and the feet. And this takes the pelvis from side to side, and we feel the movement down through the sides of our rib cage. And of course, you can do some cat as well, rounding our back, dipping our spine. So in these ones, when we round our back to the ceiling, we're creating lots of space in the back of the ribs. And when we dip our spine down to the floor, we're creating space in the front of the ribs. And equally as when we round our back to the ceiling, the front of the ribs have to gather up. And when we dip our spine down to the floor, the back of the rib cage gathers more. So in your own time, let me just check my little list. In your own time, you're going to, from doing some cat and some tail wagging, you're going to tuck your toes under, and you're going to come up into dog pose. Let's see how a dog pose feels today. And then I will come and have a little look at you. So just of all of these things, we're just starting to get some movement into our bodies. And as much as possible, I just really want you to encourage you to do what your body feels it needs right now, which is, you know, so like we do in class. So come into dog pose. When you're in dog pose, you can see, how do the backs of your legs feel? How do your shoulders feel? Can you rest through your hands? It might be then that you want to come back onto hands and knees and do a little bit more tail wagging, a bit more cat. You're going to do one, yeah, and maybe a bit of child pose. That would be another possibility if you're feeling you need to have a little breather. So on hands and knees, just, yeah, a little bit, a couple more minutes of moving in a way that feels good to your body right now. The cat, tail wagging, child pose if you like, and also maybe another dog pose. And wherever you are, just this focus on releasing tension. So, you know, how does your body feel? Where are the tight places? What can you do to release that? And certainly what we want to try and avoid is bringing in more tension. So, letting the head go in dog pose is always good. Bending one knee, bending the other, big handprints on the floor. Now from this, everyone seems to be in dog pose. So either from this dog pose or when you come back onto hands and knees, we're going to come into a lunge. So yeah, so stepping one foot forwards into lunge, from your dog pose or from hands and knees, and seeing how that feels. So we're thinking a little bit more around the pelvis now and opening out through the front of the pelvis. But I think we also want this sense that the whole of our body is interconnected. So when we release tension in one place, that affects the whole positively. So have a couple of breaths in your lunge. Make sure your front foot is well planted. You're not doing anything particularly with your upper body. You're looking down at the ground, letting your shoulders be as relaxed as possible. When we come to swap sides in lunge, you could, from your lunge, plant your hands down, step your front foot back into dog pose. Have a couple of breaths in dog if that works for you, or you can come onto hands and knees. So stepping back into dog pose, and then when you're ready, you can step the other foot forwards into lunge. And have a few breaths. So in lunge, you've got the other foot forwards. Make sure that foot's nice and planted. You want to feel that your heel is under your knee. The knee can, for some people, the knee can travel forwards over the foot a bit, but the heel needs to stay well down. So that depends a little bit on how easy or hard squatting is for you. Okay. So from this second lunge, you're going to, either from the lunge or from hands and knees, you're going to do one more dog pose. Have a bit of a lengthen in that dog pose and then fold down into child pose. So stepping back into dog. Enjoying dog pose, hopefully. That looks very nice. Things are starting to lengthen out. Good. Looking really nice. And from dog, you can fold into child. You can be quiet in child pose. And we're going to do a little sequence in a moment. So yeah, have a few breaths in child pose, and then I'm going to show you the little sequence we're going to do. So notice how it feels to be in child pose. Yes, and it can be nice to do a little bit of wiggling of your pelvis from side to side to help it settle. Just let the shoulders be as relaxed as possible. If it works for you, for the back of the, for the forehead to touch the floor, or for the forehead to rest on the back of your hands, that can be quite a sort of a restful thing to do, the contact of the forehead on the ground, or the hands, or the arms. And just this moment of quiet. So I think I've said this in other classes, that suddenly life has gone maybe more, quieter, but It doesn't mean that we don't necessarily feel quieter in ourselves, or we have more time for sort of to be quiet. So just taking these few moments where you feel the ground supporting your body and the movement of your breath in your body. And then you're just going to watch me briefly do this little sequence. So if it's comfortable to sit in kneeling, sit in kneeling. But if it isn't, just sit in another comfortable position. So this is very simple. You may need your, what should I say? No, I don't think, we're going to be going into a squat, but I would say probably don't use a wedge in this squat unless you particularly want to, because we're not going to stay there. So in our little sequence, we're going to be moving into dog pose, having a couple of breaths in dog, and then from dog, we're going to walk the hands into a forward bend. From our forward bend, we're going to come down through a squat. It's fine if your heels come up, I think, rather than putting a wedge there, because from the squat, we're going to let our knees come forwards onto the mat. We're then going to walk forwards and slightly longer forwards so that we can then rock our pelvis forwards to face up dog. And then it just starts again. We come up into dog pose. You might want to walk the hands in a little bit to not be so long. Okay, so let's try that. We're going to do that little sequence 3 times. So let's see how we get on with this. So hands and knees, tucking the toes under, exhaling, rocking your hips back and then up into dog pose. So coming into your dog pose, arriving in dog. Big exhalation or 2, resting through your hands. And then start to walk your hands in towards your feet. So you're coming into a forward bend. And again, let yourself arrive in the forward bend so that all of your weight is in your feet. And make sure your feet are parallel and hip width apart. It could be a generous hip width apart for the squatting. And then starting to bend your knees straight forwards over your feet. And it may be that your heels stay down, or it may be that they come up, and that's fine. And then bring your hands on the floor to help stabilize yourself. So then rolling through your feet, so your knees come onto the ground. And then walk your hands forwards and make it a long hands and knees position. So you can then start to let your pelvis rock forwards, untucking your toes, just seeing how it feels to come into maybe quite an easy face up dog. Come back, maybe bring the hands in a little bit. Tuck the toes again, rock the hips back and up into dog pose. And you're going to try that all over again. And I'm going to come and have a little look at you. So from a few breaths in dog pose, and then walking your hands in towards your feet, into your forward bend, letting your head go. And then from the forward bend, dropping down through your squat. Doesn't matter, let the heels come up. And then bringing the hands on the floor so you can roll through your toes. That's it, bringing your knees down onto the ground. And then walking your hands forwards into a long hands and knees position so you come into face up dog. And again, if your lower back doesn't feel so happy here, just you don't have to go all the way. You can hold the pelvis back a bit. Let's do this one more time. Let the hands come back a little bit more. Tuck your toes under, rock your hips up and back into your dog pose. Breath or 2 in dog pose, walking the hands into your feet, coming into your forward bend. I'm going to come have another look at you as you drop from your forward bend. You come down through, avoiding the sofa. So coming into a squat rather than sitting on the sofa. So good. That's it. And then rocking forwards, letting your heels come up if they've gone down, using your hands on the floor so you can roll through your feet onto your knees, walking your hands forwards. How does it feel to let the pelvis come forwards into face up dog? And this time, you're going to rock all the way back into child pose. And just have a breath or 2 in child pose. Lovely. So we're going to come and do a few things now, which are preparation for our hips and pelvis, because we're going to be doing sitting with Sharira mudras. So I'd like you to come and sit for a moment with both legs long and quite wide, not really wide. And then maybe so you're leaning back on your hands. Then what we're going to do is bend one knee, and so we're still leaning on the other arm, so we're a bit offside. You need to have, can you see that I've got space, when my hand is on my knee, I've got space for my knee to come down towards the floor when it comes towards my other leg. When it goes out to the side, my knee doesn't reach the floor, and that's fine. But we're looking at these two movements, the knee coming in and out. Yeah, and you're leaning away. Good. Are we all there? Very nice. Seeing how that feels. Good. And then let's swap over and do the same thing on the other side. So lengthen out the leg you were just moving, lean onto the other arm, bend the other leg, your hands on your knee, and you're really leaning your weight onto the side of the pelvis of the long leg. Yeah, so that you can then, this leg can be quite free and it can move out and in the hip joint. And the knee can come down. It may not come all the way towards the floor, but there's space for it to come down towards the floor if it can do. Good. So just a couple more times. Very nice. And then lean back onto your arms. Give your legs a bit of a shake out. And then you're going to bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor and have your feet as wide as the narrow edge of your mat. And if you're not facing the narrow edge of your mat, it doesn't matter, but come to these movements, yeah? So we're tilting the knees from side to side. And it might be that you start to walk down your mat or back up your mat. There doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason about this one. I seem to be walking forwards, but sometimes people walk back. And again, we've got all this space, haven't we, in our homes to do this. Now, we're then going to do one of my favourite things. So stop on one side and you're going to tap this knee. So the knee that's coming towards the centre, lean onto the other arm and tap that knee on the floor a few times and see how that feels. If you don't like it, don't do it.
Is this your favourite thing, Rose?
What's that?
Your favourite thing, tapping your knee?
I do quite like these ones, yeah. All these sort of tapping ones, I do really like. Because I think there's something about when the whole point of doing this is that you're tapping the knee to sort of tell all the muscles around the knee joint and into the hip that they can let go, particularly into the hip. And there's something sort of reassuring about it, but not everyone likes them. Okay, come back to the centre and lengthen both legs out for a moment. They can be long and wide. Shake out. And then still leaning back on your hands, see how it feels to come into cobbler pose. And then maybe walking your hands in a little bit more. We won't stay here very long at this moment. And doesn't matter which, let one knee come over on top of the other knee. And then slide that leg back so we're heading into pinwheel. And we're doing a bit of circling. So I've probably said this many times before, we're probably going to do some variation of pinwheel in every single Zoom class I do. But yeah, this is something else that I really like in terms of it releases tension in the hip joints around the pelvis. We're going to come into the forward bend. So turn towards your knee that's going out to the side. And fold the weight of your body down over that leg. And this I find is so nice for my lower back. So resting down, let your forehead come to rest on the floor if that works for you. And just have a few breaths in your pinwheel forward bend. And yeah, for me, this is just a place where I always feel quite happy to be. So feel one more cycle of breath here. So let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then slowly walk your hands in towards you. Coming back up, slide your back knee on top of the knee you just folded over. Open your legs out into cobbler pose for a moment. It's always interesting to come back to here, see how it feels. I always find maybe it feels a little bit easier. And then let's go on to the other side. So bring your knee on top of your knee, slide that top leg back. A little bit of circling here. So again, I find this is very helpful if I'm feeling a bit unbalanced in my pelvis. So perhaps one side's feeling a bit tight, one side of the lower back even. These ones seem to really help balance it out. And then again, you're going to turn to face the knee that's going out to the side, and you're going to fold down and see how it feels. Have a few breaths there. Let the weight of your body rest down. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then in your own time, walking your hands back in towards you. Slide your back leg on top of your top leg. Open out into cobbler pose. We won't stay here. We'll just literally move through cobbler pose this time. You can either at this point then just lengthen your legs out, or you can take them wide for a moment. And what we're going to do now is sit in a comfortable position. So it might be that you want to have your back against the wall or the sofa. You could even sit on a chair. You could be kneeling, you could be cross-legged. And I'm going to move a bit closer so we can do these movements I'm talking about, these Sharira mudra movements. So I think here. Okay. So what we're thinking about here is just being able to tune into the movement of our rib cage, and obviously within the rib cage, the lungs in different places. So the first position we've done a little bit, but slightly different. Now you're going to have your hands flat as if they're on a table. Your thumbs are going round towards the back ribs, your fingers towards the front. And we just see how it feels to have a few breaths here. So it might be that I think at this point I might mute everyone just so it's a little bit quieter. Just wave at me if you need to say anything. Okay, and then I will come back in. So good. So what you're doing here is just having a few breaths, seeing how it feels to focus in on the movement of your rib cage. So what do you feel as you breathe in? What do you feel as you exhale? And it could be really helpful to close your eyes. And if you find that focusing on your breathing makes you start to feel more anxious or more tense, then really just focus on the movement of the body, of the ribs, rather than necessarily on the breath itself. So this feeling of widening and narrowing. And then let the arms come to rest and just let the shoulders drop. So what we might find, yes, Helen, just be aware if you're by the wall, try and keep your head on the top of your spine rather than leaning it back. I think that would be more helpful. So sometimes the shoulders can get a bit tight in these, so we have little rests in between. The next one can seem a bit peculiar. Your thumbs go into your armpits and you've got those same flat hands, but right up here towards the top of the ribs. And it might be that your fingers touch in the middle, it doesn't really matter. And can you see my elbows are sort of going straight out to the sides? And then again, the same thing, we tune in here to what do we feel as the breath comes in, as the breath leaves us. So this same sense of maybe widening and narrowing. And what's very interesting with the thumbs in the armpits, once you get over the slightly strange sensation, is actually that there's ribs here. And you may feel some movement. And if you don't worry. So just have a few more breaths here, trying to let the shoulders relax as much as possible. And then release the arms, let the hands come to rest on your thighs. We're going to do a movement. I'm just going to show you, you don't need to turn around. We're going to be bringing our hands in a moment here onto the sort of top back of the shoulders. But let's do it in a particular way. Let's take our arms and release the arms. Take the arms up, touch the hands in prayer pose over your head, let the shoulders drop. And then see how it feels. You're going to then open your hands out and bring them right onto the back of your shoulders. So your hands are sort of either side of the base of your neck. So it's maybe not the most comfortable place to be, but see how it feels to be here and focusing on your breath. Can you feel your body responding to your breathing? And this might be a whole sort of new experience just to have your hands here. And having your arms in this raised position also affects the ribs, so it creates a bit more space between the ribs. So you might not feel much happening under your hands, but you might feel that your ribs around the front widen and narrow a little bit more. So another couple of breaths. And then release the arms, and you might want to give them a shake after that one. So we've got one more hand position, and this one is a mudra. It's a hand position. I'm just going to come a bit nearer so you can see. So you're going to be bringing your hands to touch. You're keeping the thumbs and the middle fingers long. So look, I'm folding all the other fingers down. So I've got, there you go, I've got long middle fingers, long thumbs. I'm then keeping the base of my hands touching, my middle fingers coming to the notch at the base of my, the base of my neck, and my thumbs are coming down my breastbone. That's it. Good. Good. And yeah, that's it. So you've got your hands sort of spanning your sternum, spanning your breastbone. Keep the heels of the hands together. That's it. Keep the base of the hands touching. And see how it feels to have a few breaths here. You're trying to let the shoulders settle as much as possible. Good. It might feel a little bit strange, but we're going to come back to this one. So just a few breaths here. What do you feel? So what I like about this one is this sense of the sort of up and down length of the rib cage. So as I breathe in, maybe it feels that that space between the fingers and the thumbs is increasing. Maybe you feel the ribs wide, lifting a bit. And then as you exhale, perhaps they settle back. Good. Lovely. We're going to come back to these in standing after we've moved a bit more. So let your arms come down, give your hands a shake out. In your own time, you're going to move through dog pose, forward bend, up into standing. We're going to do some movements in standing, and we're going to come back to these. So Come back onto your mat. So after, I'm going to unmute you. After the mudra, it's very nice to come into dog pose and feel your hands on the floor. Right, that's nice. I can hear you again now. Very disconcerting when you're muted. So enjoying your dog pose, big handprints on the floor. And then from dog pose, walking your hands in towards your feet. Again, you can have that feeling of really big handprints, all of the weight ending up in the feet. Breathing in, exhaling, sinking into the heels, rolling up into standing. Very nice. Arriving in, yeah, so just take a moment when you get into standing to arrive in standing, because it's taken us a little bit longer today than sometimes. And we are going to be thinking about some more, maybe rotation movements again, because it's again about this feeling of freeing up the ribs. So let's start, we'll do a lot of these. Let's start with our nice, loose, easy swinging twist. So the whole of your body is moving in this. So yes, we're thinking about freeing up the ribs, but everything is coming along. Your feet are coming along, your pelvis is moving. It always feels nice and sort of easy. Good. Lovely. A few more times. You can let your arms slap onto your body. Wonderful. And then let's just remind ourselves of when we're twisting, and we can do these lovely free ones, but we can also do this movement where we're thinking about not moving from the waist down. Okay, it's more difficult here in standing to keep ourselves fixed. So see how it feels. You're going to try and leave your pelvis behind. Bring your hands onto your low ribs. Can you turn a little bit to the right and the left, but not move below the waist? And then you might find it easier. What about if you were to bring your hands onto your shoulders? You might feel, that might feel a bit freer. And the other possibility is then bringing your fingers onto the crown of your head. Again, we're feeling the ribs move, the shoulders move, the arms move, but not the pelvis, hopefully. Good. Let that go. Come back to this one. Let the pelvis move again. Swing the arms. So, you know, this one, you know, for me, I was thinking, oh, this one just feels so lovely. I let my whole body do it. It's very enjoyable. But when we want to really find some movement in the rib cage, which is helpful for our breathing, for the health of our lungs, then it's good to fix the pelvis. So, come back to now, settling down, feet hip width apart and parallel. Bring your hands into prayer pose for a moment. So feel the contact of your feet on the floor, feel the contact of your hands. You're going to let a breath come in and we're going to start to swing our arms, just our arms now, out to the sides and then crossing in front of us. And from here, so Helen, I'm afraid we're going to again do your favourites. So from here, we're going to be giving ourselves a hug. And I'd like you to have your right arm on top, just so you don't have to worry, okay? So you've got your right arm completely on top, good. And then here, can you do that same twist? Keep your arms out, I'm just gonna release one to show you. Can you do that same twist, not moving your pelvis? So turning your shoulders to the right and to the left a little bit. Good. Quite nice here, you can feel your ribs again. And then we will pause in the middle and we will go on into our lovely eagle arms, this one. And then you're going to take this into a forward bend. And I always like to have my feet a bit wider, so I would probably step my feet apart so they're about the width of the narrow edge of the mat. Bending your knees as much as you like and coming forwards into a forward bend. You can keep your arms in eagle arms, you can release them whenever you want to. I know you've got your right arm on top, so you don't need to worry about that. So it's nice to let your arms go all the way down to the ground. That's it, Sarah. I think go back, release your arms from eagle arms in your forward bend and be nice and floppy. Good. And then keep your feet wide, sink into your heels, roll up into standing. So when you arrive back in standing, you've still got your feet wide, and just come into a few of these side lengthening movements. So you're taking your arm up, the other arm hangs. I send my pelvis, yeah, you don't have to do this, but I like to send my pelvis in the direction of the raised arm to really feel this length through the side of the body. So just maybe 2 or 3 times to each side. Good. So again, we're thinking here, this is about the ribs, widening here, closing up here. And then come back to feet being hip width apart again. So feet hip width apart, hands back in prayer pose. So taking a moment to just settle, to feel the feet on the floor, to feel the contact of the hands. Let a breath come in, exhaling. Come back to swinging your arms. So all of these movements, I think we can feel expansive and nice, particularly if you're, stuck at, we're all stuck at home more than we used to be being. And, some of us, if we're in isolation, we're really stuck at home. So it's nice to feel expansive, even just in our movements. So this time, hug yourself with your left arm on top. Okay. That's it. Let the shoulders drop down away from the ears. And then the same thing, do this little rotation. So leave your pelvis facing forwards, turn your shoulders to the right and to the left. And see how that feels. And then pause in the middle. Come on into your eagle arms. Take your feet wide again, as wide as the narrow edge of your mat, and let your knees bend, sink into your heels as you fold forwards. I mean, I like to have my knees quite bent in this one. You don't have to, but yeah, that always feels nicer for me. So have a few breaths with your arms and eagle arms. Whenever you want to release your arms, do so. Keep your weight well in your heels. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. And then as you exhale, sinking into your heels, rolling back up into standing. Keeping your feet wide. And just revisiting these ones again, 2 or 3 more times to each side. So when the arm goes up, this arm is reaching up and over. This arm, you really give it away. If you send your pelvis in this direction, it helps you find more length down through the side. You just want to make it feel comfortable and enjoyable. And for me, it's not staying in these too long, it's moving in and out. And just feeling that lovely opening through the side of the body, but not getting too fixed. And then have a little shake out. We're going to be actually working with the feet as wide as that. But I think maybe have a little shake out first of all. And then, yeah, so then come back and have your feet back in the same position, as wide as the edge of the mat. And you're going to be coming back into a forward bend. And what I want you to do here is a little bit of playing around with bending one knee and bending the other. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. So most of you are quite familiar. I thought we do this every so often. So come into the forward bend, and I'm just going to talk to you about the couple of ways you could bend your knees. So come forwards. So you could really swing your pelvis from side to side as you bend your knees. So see how that feels to swing your pelvis to the right and to the left as you bend your knees. Obviously, don't do anything that doesn't feel good for the knees, but that can be quite fun. But then can you do the same movement in terms of bending your knees, but not move the pelvis so much? So could you bend your knee and just let your pelvis tilt a bit? So the pelvis is going to tilt towards the bent knee side, but it doesn't need to swing wildly from side to side, as much as that might feel fun. Good. And then just let yourselves flop forwards in the centre with both knees either straight or both knees bent, whatever feels good for you, and the heels really rooted into the ground. And then sink into your heels and come back up into standing. And I'm just going to show you what we're going to do, where we're going to take that to. So some of you do know this one. Have a little shake out. So you're going to be bending your knee by tilting the pelvis, not swinging it. And we're going to be turning. So you might feel that you need your block or your book under your hand. We're going to be turning away from the bent leg. So can you see I'm bending, this arm comes up. I'm bending this knee, I'm turning away from the bent leg. Maybe the other arm comes up. And we'll try this from side to side a few times. You may want that block. And just seeing how that feels. Let's have a look. So you've got your feet as wide as the mat. You've got your feet as wide as the mat. You're bending one knee with your pelvis tilting rather than swinging. The bent knee hand comes onto the floor or the block. You're turning away from the bent leg. And the other arm might reach up towards the ceiling. Good. And so in this one, very nice. In this one, it's very much, again, I don't stay there that long. I might have a breath or two, move on to the other side. Let myself arrive in it. You're right there, Marie.
I think so, yeah.
Good. Very nice. Lovely. Oh, sorry, Otto's just Cam's just taking him out. He's about to drink my water, as he always wants to do. Lovely. So maybe do this 2 or 3 times to each side. Come on, there's water out here, isn't there? And then flop forwards in the centre. Very nice. Good. Yeah, if you're taking the arm up towards the ceiling, Helen, try and feel that it's right above your, that's it, good. It's right above your shoulder, and your palm would face forwards. Looks to me that your palm's facing back. Ah, that's it. Well done. Brilliant. Really nice. Okay, do let yourself flop forwards just in a forward bend, and then sink into your heels, come back up into you standing. And have a little shake out. And we're going to take our feet a little bit wider in a moment. Shall I? Yeah, I might maybe just watch me, because I'm just thinking which is the best way to do it. I might show it in both directions. I'm going to show you everything you're going to do. So we're going to take the feet wider. You could do a bit of bending one knee at a time. The pelvis does need to shift in this, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. So a bit of this. Make sure your feet are parallel. Yeah, big toes turned in, if anything. And then what I would like you to do, and I'm going to turn around the other way to show you this, and this is again where you might need a block or two, or you could take your hands onto the sofa, is from here, I'd like you to then, from a bit of shifting your weight, I'd like you to come to a place where, okay, this is when we're in a forward bend. Could we come to a place where our spine is long and flat rather than curving forwards? That might be with hands or fingertips on a block or two. And then can we come to a similar sort of twist, but both knees are doing the same thing. So both of your knees could be bent, both could be straight. But we're really trying just to move in the ribs. And it might be you take your arm up, but this is a bit hard, this is a bit tougher in the ribs. So you might not take your arm up. If I do my other side, oh, I really can't turn. So I wouldn't take my arm up. So I think this is really familiar for all of you, but just, yeah, being mindful with it, because you're at home and I can't keep such a close eye. So, aren't you lucky? So go long ways on your mat. So you've got your feet on your mat. That's number one thing. If you think you might need blocks or books under your hands, have them in front of you. Make sure your feet are parallel. It's really important here to have the weight in the heels and particularly the outer edges of the feet. It's quite easy to roll onto the inner edges of the feet. So as you go forwards, you want to feel really supported in by your feet. If your fingers are on the floor, it's a light touch. And then do that first, shifting your weight from side to side by bending one knee, bending the other. So this is just to help you settle into your wide forward bend. Bending one knee, bending the other. And then when you're thinking about moving into the twist, it looks very nice. Nice pink block, Sarah. When you're thinking about moving into the twist, then settle in the center. First of all, make sure both your knees are doing the same thing. So both knees are straight, both knees are bent. Very nice. I can see, yeah, lovely backs lengthening out. Let your spines come to that neutral flat place. Very nice, Sandra. Good, good. And then, yeah, one hand stays on the blocks, the other hand on the back of your pelvis. And then you're turning, and you're trying to feel this turning is in your ribs and your shoulders. Lovely. And yeah, does that top shoulder, I suppose what you have to ask yourself is, does that top shoulder turn enough towards the ceiling to make it comfortable for you to take your arm up? And it may or it may not. And that's it, Helen. Remember, if you do take your arm up, your palm is facing forwards. And the hand should be lovely and relaxed, this sort of soft, open palm. That would be the icing on the cake if we can do that. So try this a couple of times to each side. And yeah, see how you feel. So we're really sort of trying to leave the pelvis behind. Good. So that's better with the arm, Marie. Good. Yeah, just bringing it more in the sort of towards your head, if that's possible. Helen, just check what your hand is doing so that your palm is facing forwards, and that's it. And it's soft. The wrist is relaxed. Good. Very nice. Lovely. Beautiful. Good. So yeah, a couple of times each side. Yes, and then you can fold forwards like you're doing, Marie, into the forward bend. And then yes, whenever your legs have had enough, you can come up out of your wide forward bend and have a little shake out. There's no rush. If you like your wide, okay, Daisy, the Daisy has now appeared, bless her, onto my yoga mat. So I've just taken the dogs out, which is very fun. Okay, so come back into standing, have a little bit of a shake out. We're going to, in a moment, revisit the Sharira mudras in standing and see how that feels. So often I think it's easier for a lot of us to do things in standing than it is sitting, but we'll see. Before we do that, maybe just do this one and see how it feels to come back to a very easy twist. Okay, and then settle yourself down in standing. And I'll see if it gets noisy, I'll mute everyone. It seems okay at the moment. So settle in standing with your feet hip width apart and parallel. And so remember this first position, our hands are flat like they're on a table, and we bring them down to the low ribs. So you've got the contact of the index finger around the front ribs and the thumb going round towards the back ribs. Let the shoulders drop, and just a few breaths here. What do you feel? Maybe this widening and narrowing of the low ribs, both in the front and the back. The sense of the breath travelling all the way down to the bottom of the lungs. So giving your in-breath and your out-breath plenty of time and space. Just release the arms, let them hang for a moment, let your shoulders drop. If you want to sway a little bit from side to side. So sometimes, yeah, I think it's really important if you need to add a bit of movement into your standing. And then let's come back to the second position. So this lovely one where we've got our thumbs in our armpits and our elbows out to the side. That's it. Our index finger again making this contact with the front ribs, this time in the upper part of the chest. And how does it feel to have a few breaths here? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. So one more cycle of breath, let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Release the arms again, a little bit of swaying, even if you need to shake your feet out, do so. And then remember this third one, where we take our arms up, we touch our hands together in prayer pose over our head, we bring our hands here to the base of the neck. So the hands are either side of the base of the neck. And how does it feel to have a few breaths here? Noticing what you feel under your hands, but also noticing how the rest of the rib cage feels, particularly in the front of the body. And then release your arms. Remember, we're going to come back to this mudra. So where we touch the palms together, thumbs stay long, middle fingers stay long. We fold the other fingers down. We bring our hands, so the fingers are resting. Make sure they're resting at the bony bit at the base of your throat, not pushing into the soft tissue. That's it. And then the thumbs further down the sternum. How does it feel to settle with the hands in this one? Make sure the heels of your hands are touching, the base of your palms. Have a few breaths here. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Sway a little bit from side to side. Shift your weight over one leg and foot and over the other. Because what I'd like you to do in a moment is just very simply shift your weight onto one foot and bring the other foot to stand on that foot. And see how that feels. We're coming to a little mini balance. If you wobble, of course, bring your toes back onto the floor. And then see if you can re-establish yourself in the little mini balance. Beautiful. Keep your hands in the same position. Bring the foot back down and try the other foot. So try shifting your weight onto the other foot. Coming over. Just all the time, let your shoulders undo. The hands might feel quite active, but you try and let shoulders soften as much as possible. How does it feel to settle on the other foot? Good. Let the breath come in, let the breath leave you. Good. Come down and have a little shake out. We're going to, with that same mudra, we're going to come into tree pose. So now, if it's up to you. So you could be bringing your hands in first, organizing your hands first, coming into a mini tree. What I was doing when I did this, and you might want to do this, is if you want the challenge, you can come and use your hands to bring yourself into tree and then bring your hands into the mudra on your breastbone. Okay, so you've got a choice whether you do the hands first or you come into the balance first. It depends what sort of tree pose you want to do, really. So I will leave that up to you. And yeah, we'll see how it feels. So remember, you've got the thumbs along and the middle fingers along, and the other fingers fold down. And then we bring the hands to the breastbone. And we see how it feels to settle into our balance. How does it feel to have the hands there, spanning the breastbone? Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. Do come down in your own time. It's looking very nice and quiet, everyone. So yes, it might be good to shake everything out. And then maybe just have a quiet moment in standing before we do the other side, so it doesn't get too busy. So just take a moment to look at your feet, maybe close your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, let your arms hang. Just how does standing feel? How does your breathing feel? And then when you're ready, coming onto the other side. Sorry, it's just got something noisy in the background here. So coming onto the other side. So again, you can do the hands first, or you can come into your tree pose first. So in that same mudra where we've got the middle fingers long and the thumbs long, bringing our hands onto the breastbone. Letting the shoulders drop. That's very nice. Settling ourselves in standing. It's fine if you have a little wobble, you can come out and go back in again. Yeah, come down and have a little shake out. So well done everyone. We're going to make our way down now, from the backs of your mats through standing, forward bend, dog pose into child pose. So time. And just, yeah, staying, it's really up to you. If you come into dog pose or child forward bend and they feel nice, stay there. So it's really up to you where you want to be. If you're just thinking, oh, I want to be in child pose, then by all means head on into child pose. So forward bend, dog pose, child pose in your own time. So when you eventually settle down into child pose, come into a child pose where your knees are a little bit wider than they might sometimes be. Because we're going to do, in a moment, we're going to do some little movements here. Good. So I'm going to explain this to you, and then if you're not sure, come and have a look at me. But it's very simple. All I would like you to do from in this child pose where your knees are a bit wider and you've got your arms quite wide either side of your head, is as you exhale, just see if you can lift your head off the floor a little bit using the muscles in your upper back. So it's a little bit like a tortoise when it starts to take its head out of its shell. So again, look at me if you're not sure. Very small movement, exhaling, we lift the head Our gaze moves forwards, but we keep our eyes down on the floor, and we're trying to feel the movement in the upper back. And sink down into our arms. So just a few times, see how that feels in child pose. And then from child pose, you're going to slither forwards onto your belly, because this is a movement we tend to do more frequently on our bellies. So from child, slither onto your belly and just lie comfortably down on your belly. You might want to, yeah, I don't mind where you might want your hands under your forehead. You might not. And what you're going to do on your belly is give your pelvis a bit of a wiggle. So can you wiggle your, that's not very nice. I can see Sandra's pelvis wiggling. So
Lucky you.
So wiggle your pelvis from side to side, just to help yourself settle. And then what I'd like you to do is bring your arms. So your arms are either side of your head in a big circle. And then a very similar movement to what you were doing in child pose. As you exhale, sinking down into your forearms and elbows, letting your head lift a bit. Breathing in, coming back down as you exhale, very nice. So, and what you want to be feeling is that the muscles in the upper back are activating to lift your head. And do this a few more times. Exhaling down into the forearms, lifting the head, maybe breathing in with your head is up. And as you exhale again, you can bring your head back down. So it doesn't really matter too much about when you bring your head down. I'd just say lift your head on the out breath. Good. And then, how are we doing? Then from, yeah, what I'd like you to do is fold back into child pose. So let your lower back lengthen out. Fall back into child pose. Have a couple of breaths there. Then I'm just going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to come back onto our bellies one more time, and I will show you. So when you've had a couple of breaths in child pose, come into kneeling. And yes, and watch me now. Hopefully you can see from here. So what I'd like you to do is this one, where you've got your, you see you've got your elbows bent and you're rolling from side to side across your forehead. You're pressing into one hand and then the other. And then you can pause in the center and press into both hands and come up into a little bit of cobra. But before we do those, we're going to do a little bit of this one, okay? So, lie back down onto your bellies, slither forwards onto your bellies, and the first thing you're going to do is, again, it might be nice to rest your forehead on the back of your hands if you like, is to bend your knees and take your lower legs towards the ceiling. And then that's it, tilting your feet from side to side. So Sandra, this might be a new one that
Yeah, it is. I've just got my feet caught in the radiator. So
okay. Yeah, you don't want that. So yeah, this is one of my sort of new favourites. It's not everyone likes it. So if your lower back doesn't like it, don't do it, or bring your legs a bit lower down. But yeah, I really like this one. Good, very nice. And then you bring your legs down, you let your legs settle down. And you're then going to bring your hands to stand on the floor beneath your shoulders. So you want to bend your elbows. You don't want your elbows on the floor, you just want your hands on the floor. Starting off with your forehead on the floor, pressing into one hand, pressing into the other. So you're rolling across your forehead. And as you press into one hand, that shoulder lifts. Yeah, so you sort of, your head rolls towards the pressing hand, going side to side. And then if you want to, you pause in the center, you press into both hands and you let your head come away from the floor into a little mini cobra, or bigger cobra if you like. I know some of you, Sandra, rather like cobras. So Lovely. And then you come back down, you do a bit more rolling from side to side. So when we're doing the rolling from side to side, pressing into one hand, Helen, I can't see you. Are you okay there?
I think so.
Yeah, good. Okay. We've done this one enough in class that I think it should be familiar. This one, when you're rolling from side to side, you're really moving the rib cage again. So it's ever so helpful for freeing up the ribs and helping the breathing. So again, you can come back, you know, maybe up to 3 times if you like, pausing in the center, coming into cobra, and then interspersing it with over side to side.
When you turn from side to side, do your top leg come off the floor as well, or does it stay on the floor?
Well, you might feel that it lightens a bit. But yeah, I mean, it depends. I think we have to think about, is that Sally asking?
No,
it's Marie. Marie. Okay. Well, you have to think, are you adding something extra in?
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a point that yes, as you press into your hand, and actually where this movement would possibly go to is if you pressed into your hand, that knee sliding up, that would be another way you could take it. So I think definitely the weight in the leg lessens. Okay. But you want to think, am I adding something extra in, or am I just pressing into my hands? And that would be the thing to think about. But I think you're right, Marie, there's a very natural progression in this. What you're going to do from here, when you've had enough on your belly, is you're going to roll onto your back. Yes. We're going to do, let's see, we're going to do a floor twist. So if you think you might need a cushion, we're going to do, you need to look at me, but I think you will know this. We're going to do this floor twist, where we keep our shoulder down and our knees come to one side. If you think you might need a cushion under your knees or under your shoulder, just have it to hand. We're not doing it immediately, but that's what we're going to do, because again, floor twist, really good for releasing the rib cage. So lie down onto your backs and arrive on your back and just see, what do you want to do? So it might be that you lie with your knees bent. It might be you hug your knees into your chest. It might be even that you have your legs long. So just when you arrive on your back, what do you want to do? Maybe nothing. Just arriving. Okay. And then if you haven't folded your knees into your chest, actually before we do that, maybe just stand your feet on the floor before we do that. And just do a little bit of rolling your head to the right and to the left. And see how that feels. So yes, if you've got your knees folded into your chest, maybe stand your feet on the floor and just do a little bit of easing your head from side to side. I'm going to mute everyone now, even though it's not too noisy. Good, so we're quiet. Okay, and then letting the head find a comfortable place to settle. And then you're going to fold your knees in towards your chest. So we're going to do our floor twist now. So fold your knees in towards your chest. If we're really trying to get the ribs to move in the floor twist, we want to keep the knees as close to the chest as possible. So hooking the arm under the knees can be helpful. And then the other arm comes out along the floor at shoulder height, or in a comfortable place. So the shoulder can stay on the floor. And then as we exhale, we bring the knees down to the floor on the other side. And this is where you may need a cushion to support your knees. So your shoulders on one side, your arm and shoulder on one side, your knees on the other side. And you really need to be able to rest here. So this is where a cushion could be helpful. If the shoulder and the knees don't feel heavy on the floor, pop a cushion under the knees, between the knees, sometimes under your shoulder. And then have a couple of really big exhalations. I can't hear them because you're muted, but I will imagine them. And then just letting yourself settle in the floor twist and Allowing the ground to support you, feeling the movement of your breath in your body. Where do you feel your breathing? And it might be, if you feel that your low ribs are moving a lot in this twist, it might be that focusing on the breath in the upper part of your chest is more helpful. So just, where is it helpful to feel the breath? Where does it feel there's some possibility for movement? See if you can feel, just very quietly, can you feel another 2 or 3 cycles of breath moving through you? So can you feel the out breath leaving you, emptying you? Can you feel the inhalation coming in, filling you? And then when you're ready, bring your knees back to the center. And we'll move on to the other side. So swap your arms over. Settle your shoulder, settle the arm that's staying on the floor, settle it down. And then using the exhalation or a few breaths, letting the knees come down. Pleased to see the cushion in action there, Marie, coming down to the other side. Using a cushion to support your legs or support your shoulder or between your knees so that you can really rest in your floor twist. And let the breath come in, the breath leave you. If you feel that having a big or sighing breath or two is helpful, then do that. It can be at any time. And then that's settling quietly with your natural breath. Noticing where you feel your breath in your body. So seeing if you can feel another 2 or 3 cycles of breath. And then whenever you're ready to come out, we're just going to be coming onto our backs and settling down quietly for relaxation. So it might be, it's such a beautiful day today, but it might be that you want your blanket to be cozy. And it's really up to you. I think it's probably nice to lie down. We've actually been moving quite a lot today, even though it might have seemed gentle. So yeah, why not give yourself the chance to lie down and just be quiet. We're going to bring our attention to our breathing. Let's see, we've just got a few minutes. So yes, we're going to bring our attention to our breathing, but just remember, if that makes you feel tense or anxious in any way, you can focus more on the sensations of your body, on the movements of the ribs, on the feeling of the body in contact with the ground. So either rest your hands on the front of your body, that can be helpful if you would like to focus on your breathing, or rest your arms down by your sides. And for these last couple of minutes, what I thought would be nice would be this focusing on the 4 parts of the breath. So the exhalation, the little pause, the natural pause at the end of the out-breath. And then the inhalation. And then the little natural pause at the end of the in-breath. And then the cycle starts all over again. Feeling the exhalation. Resting for a moment in that little natural pause at the end of the out-breath. Then feeling the breath come in. Again, resting in the little pause at the end of the in-breath. And then the out-breath leaves you. You just have one or two more cycles of breath where you're focusing on feeling those 4 parts of the breath. And then let that focus on the breathing go. Just let your awareness be expansive, sensing the breath, the body, the ground beneath you, the air around you, the sounds. Allowing everything that is present to be here, to be in the field of your awareness. So I'm going to ring the singing bowl 3 times. Just allow the sounds to come to you. At the end of that, I will unmute everyone if anyone wants to say anything or have a little chat. So thank you everyone, there's no rush. Sally, have we still got you in voice but not, we can't see you. Sally, we can hear you but not see you, is that?
Oh, okay.
That's fine,
Well,
that's fine. I'm just checking you are still there.
Went off completely when we were doing the side twist. It suddenly went off. So I got back just as that was ending.
Yes.
So now, oh, it's funny. Yes, hang on. Can you see me now? Yes.
I can see you now. Hello, Sally.
Thank you for that, Kara.
Thank you
For
very
that
much.
focus on the breathing was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good, that was helpful. I have recorded this, so I'm going to stop it now.
Okay,